Take a look around. In a world that prides itself on progress, technological innovation, intellectual achievement, and economic power, there remains a deeply rooted fragility at the core of the human psyche. It's not physical, it's not intellectual, it's psychological, and it's everywhere. People are shattered by words, they recoil at disapproval, they bend under pressure, obey social norms blindly, and spiral when reality doesn't match their expectations. One critical comment sends them into a defensive tailspin. A single failure leaves them questioning their entire worth. They walk through life wearing masks, terrified of revealing the parts of themselves they've been taught to suppress. Why? Because their minds are unguarded. Their identities are fragile, and deep down, they're at war with parts of themselves they don't even know exist. Yet amid the noise and instability, there are rare individuals who move differently. They don't overreact. They're not easily manipulated. They remain still when chaos erupts around them. Their inner world seems untouched by the emotional weapons that cripple others. This isn't indifference, it's mastery. It's what happens when someone gains deep psychological insight, not just about the world, but about themselves. And at the heart of this transformation lies the work of Carl Jung. The Swiss psychiatrist didn't just observe the psyche, he mapped its terrain. And through his concept of shadow integration, he uncovered a method for cultivating psychological resilience so powerful that it renders a person nearly untouchable. This isn't about becoming cold or robotic, it's about becoming whole. Stick with me until the end. There's something there you absolutely won't want to miss. Let's begin. Let's explore how. Part 1. The shadow, your hidden double. To understand psychological invincibility, we must begin with Jung's concept of the shadow. In popular culture, the term shadow gets watered down. It's often reduced to your dark side, something ominous and separate from who you are. But for Jung, the shadow wasn't just about darkness. It was about everything repressed, not just the immoral or shameful, but also the powerful, the bold, the passionate, and even the divine aspects you couldn't fit into your socially acceptable identity. The shadow is not evil by default. It's simply what you refuse to acknowledge. Think of it this way. From a young age, we're told who we're supposed to be. Be polite. Don't get angry. Don't be selfish. Smile more. Boys don't cry. Girls don't rage. Conformity becomes survival, and so we adapt. We wear personas, masks of who we think we should be. In doing so, we dissociate from parts of ourselves that don't fit. But the psyche doesn't forget. The rejected parts don't disappear. They retreat to the unconscious, where they wait. Jung said, "The shadow personifies everything that the subject refuses to acknowledge about himself." Every time you say, "I'm not that kind of person," you empower your shadow. Every time you claim, "I would never do that," you deepen the split. The more idealized your self-image, the darker and more potent your shadow becomes. This is why so many people, especially the most outwardly virtuous, carry the most dangerous repressed material. The kindest may secretly harbor rage. The most disciplined may wrestle with chaos. The most loyal may suppress deep betrayal. Why? Because what's denied in the conscious mind gains momentum in the unconscious, and what remains unconscious controls you. Part 2. Controlled by the unseen, the tyranny of the repressed. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." This isn't poetic exaggeration, it's clinical truth. When you repress an aspect of yourself, say anger or pride or lust, it doesn't disappear. It becomes a blind spot, and blind spots are exploitable. You ever wonder why people overreact to certain comments? Why some individuals crumble when accused of something that may not even be true? It's because the accusation activated their shadow material, the parts of themselves they fear being exposed. Say someone secretly doubts their intelligence. When challenged intellectually, they react with hostility or retreat into silence, or consider someone who prides themselves on being moral. The slightest suggestion that their motives aren't pure sends them into moral outrage. These reactions aren't responses to reality. They're emotional reflexes to repressed content. And this is the Achilles heel of most human beings. They don't realize how predictably manipulable they are. Social media, politics, advertising, they all exploit this. They don't need facts. They just need to touch your shadow and you're theirs. But here's the twist. The more aware you are of your shadow, the harder you are to manipulate. That's why people with integrated shadows appear unshakable. They've confronted what they used to repress. So when someone tries to trigger them, it doesn't work. There's nothing hidden to activate, no button to press. They don't get offended because they've already looked at themselves fully, and that's what makes them psychologically invincible. Part 3, projection. Fighting ghosts in the world. Jung identified projection as the primary weapon of the shadow. Projection occurs when you attribute to others what you cannot accept in yourself. You hate arrogance in others because you refuse to acknowledge your own. You see dishonesty everywhere because you deny your own capacity for it. You accuse others of manipulation while subtly controlling your environment. This is not conscious hypocrisy, it's unconscious defense. And it gets dangerous fast. Because when you project, you don't engage with reality. You engage with your shadow disguised as someone else. You argue not with the person in front of you, but with the part of yourself you can't tolerate. In relationships, this is deadly. You fall in love not with a real person, but with your projected ideals. Then when they fail to live up to your fantasy, you feel betrayed, not by them, but by the collapse of your own illusion. In politics, this is weaponized. Opponents are not seen as humans with different ideas. They're seen as embodiments of everything you hate in yourself. Projection fuels division, and it guarantees suffering. But the integrated person, the one who knows their shadow, can pause. They can ask, is what I'm seeing real, or am I just seeing myself in them? This awareness breaks the spell, and with it comes power. Because once projection loses its grip, no one can hijack your mind without your consent. Part 4. The counterintuitive path. Strength through vulnerability. Here's where things get uncomfortable. Most people equate strength with denial. I don't feel fear. I'm not weak. I'm always in control. But Jung saw through this illusion. True strength isn't denial. It's acceptance. To be strong is to know your fears intimately, not to pretend they don't exist. To be wise is to understand your darkness, not to plaster it over with light. Jung wrote, "The acceptance of oneself is the essence of the whole moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life." You don't become invulnerable by hardening yourself. You become invulnerable by becoming whole. It's not about erasing your darkness. It's about reclaiming it, integrating it, and using it consciously. Think of the warrior who knows he could destroy but chooses restraint, the leader who understands their manipulative potential but uses their influence for service, the artist who channels chaos into creation. This is the alchemy of shadow integration, and it makes you unshakable, not because you're invincible, but because you've already died to your illusions. There's no mask to protect, no identity to defend. You've seen what you're capable of, and you've made peace with it. Part 5. Jung's 3 steps to psychological wholeness. So how do you begin? Carl Jung laid out a practical path, a method, a process. Let's break it down into 3 transformative steps. 1. Shadow recognition. Know what you hide. Ask yourself, what kind of people irritate me the most? What accusations offend me deeply? What traits in others feel intolerable? Now flip the lens. Could those traits exist in you, repressed, unclaimed, feared? This is the beginning of shadow recognition. It hurts, it humbles, but it liberates. Jung advised paying attention to dreams, triggers, and emotional overreactions. These are windows into the unconscious. The more you study your reactivity, the clearer your shadow becomes. 2. Shadow acceptance. Stop running from yourself. Once you recognize your shadow traits, don't run. Don't shame them. Acknowledge them. You might discover you're capable of manipulation, of cruelty, of selfishness. Good. Now you're getting real. This doesn't mean acting on these impulses. It means owning them as part of your total psyche. It's the difference between pretending you're not dangerous and being someone who knows they're dangerous, but chooses peace. That's real control. 3. Shadow integration. Use it wisely. Finally, you integrate. You don't just accept your darkness, you give it form, direction, and purpose. Your suppressed assertiveness becomes healthy boundaries. Your repressed aggression becomes courage. Your abandoned creativity becomes art. You become conscious of all that you are, and therefore immune to manipulation, immune to projection, immune to collapse. You become mentally untouchable, the power of inner unity. In a divided world, the integrated mind is revolutionary. Most people live in fragments, splitting themselves between what they are and what they pretend to be. But the rare few walk the world whole. They don't need validation to feel secure. They don't fear rejection. They're not triggered by shadows because they've made peace with their own. Carl Jung didn't offer easy answers. He offered depth, a map to the underworld of the mind, and those willing to walk it become unshakable. So if you want psychological strength, don't seek armor. Seek unity. Look inward. Confront what you fear. Reclaim what you've abandoned. And become what the world cannot control. If this message stirred something within you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Someone else might be walking the same silent path, waiting for a sign that they're not alone. Stay grounded. Stay thoughtful. Stay awake. For more deep dives into philosophy, the human experience, and timeless truths, subscribe and turn on the bell. Wander the void with wonder. Question deeply. Think freely. Until next time, embrace the silence and let it speak.